I am really nervous. We got light? Oh, hold up. Now I'm a proper YouTuber with them fancy ass lights. What's up, internet? How is it going? I'm Dan Howells, and I want to share something with you guys that I've been doing. So a little bit of backstory, I guess. I have always thought of myself as a creative type. Maybe it's not always something good, but I've always thought of myself as someone who comes up with stuff. Obviously, the world is gripped by this sort of coronavirus at the moment, but we're week 8 or whatever it is, and I have really struggled with coming up with things. The reason I'm telling you all this, about 3-4 months ago, maybe longer now, maybe around Christmas time, I came up with a small little pitch for a Superman film, for a Lex Luthor film, and I came up with this pitch. This small bullet point came to me. And I was like, that's cool. And then I forgot about it because I got distracted by something else because I'm terrible at sticking to one topic. Flash forward April or whatever it was, and we're all inside, and I was like, I can't think of anything. And I just kept thinking about that pitch over and over. I started just tapping away. And I started tapping away to the point where I have 12 pages of this. I have 7,976 words. I don't know if this is a comic book series or a film or a TV show. I don't know what this is. But I do know that I've written a story called Luthor, the Cult of Smallville. So we set the scene, right? Opening shot, Smallville. We're in a small town in Kansas City. It is, for those who don't know, farming town, where farming is the main trade. Maybe 20,000 people, and the camera, for lack of a better term, zooms through, and we punch in on a junior school, and we realize it's the 70s, and we're in the middle of this classroom, and we see this teacher, and she's taking attendance, and we see her go through like Sylvia, Jason, Martha, and it's like, yes, miss, and we see then these feet running down the hallway. The teacher says Jonathan, and he's not in his chair. The door opens, and he's like, I'm sorry for being late, and we introduce Jonathan Kent as a child in the 70s. We see these two kids look sheepishly at each other in the lunchroom when everyone's around them. This budding romance starts to flourish. Time goes on, we montage through them getting older, we see them study, we see them go to the mall. And when they go to the mall, just in one scene, I would really like to see this green beetle there because it's important in Superman stuff. They go to a dance, they break up, they get back together, they go for ice cream. We just see them live out almost like a TV show style romance. So they move in together. They start working on a farm. They're in like their early 20s. It's probably like the mid-90s, 1990s right now. We established that Martha's taking veterinary classes. And we see them day to day doing their stuff in the farm. And one day, they're out, actually, in the evening. And they're doing some chores around farm, maybe taking laundry in or going around, culling weeds and dead crops out from the fields. And they're having this conversation back and forth. And halfway through, Jonathan just interrupts her and asks Martha if she would ever want children. Martha, shocked, says yes, but of course I'd want to get married first. We part the crops, we'll say. We part those crops, and they're in a clearing. The purples and oranges of the sky are starting to set alight as the sun starts to set. Stars are starting to break through, and there's a red blanket. Of course it's red. There's a basket there, a bottle of wine. And as Martha just sort of stands there, like what, Jonathan gets down on one knee, proposes. She says yes, they hug, they embrace, they're in love. We continue, rest of the montage. They go for meals with people, they go out for drinks with people. And while this is happening, in the background of this bar scene, we hear that oil has been found in Kansas City, near Smallville. And we just sort of get general chit-chat about how these people think it'll be bad for the farming here, how nothing good can come from this, blah, blah, blah. So then the Kents start to work on building a barn. They look after animals, and we see a pregnancy test on the side, and it's negative. We keep moving though. So we see this town hall, this city meeting of people stating how unhappy they are. We got the mayor in the middle and just people just sort of barking their opinions at him, really. And you hear, oh, it's no good for us, and not in Smallville, the oil will ruin everything. We don't need that here, not for us. Not for us. And the Kents are there, of course. The mayor just turns around and says, I can't do anything. Like, they bought the land. Like, what do you want me to do? I can, he's very wishy-washy with it. Protests start to happen. And the Kents are involved. And we see them in front of this chain link fence. Nothing really happens, but the construction doesn't get shut down. So eventually, the scene transitions to this cold, sterile-looking room. There's like a big oak wooden table in the middle, and there's a doctor on the other side of the Kents who are just sort of holding hands, and they're very disheveled. And we find out that Martha is sterile and is unable to conceive children. We see Jonathan fully embrace her, tells her that he loves her. As the scene behind them changes to an adoption agency, they're being told by the workers there that they aren't suitable or their lifestyle doesn't match, unable to complete this family at the moment. Concurrently to all this, oil plant is near completion. One night, Kent are out and they've finished painting the barn. And we just see on like the right hand side of the screen or the page or whatever, the night sky starts to glow orange, starts to spread as they turn and look and they see a fire where the oil plant is. And now that's not too far from the Kent's farm. It's just outside of Smallville and they're just on the edge of Smallville. So they're the closest people there. Jonathan, Martha, this sense of decency and then we have to help. Now there's not many people there. It's late at night, so there's barely any construction workers there. A lot of the machinery's messed but there's an oil fire where it's not safe. Both of them sort of running around covering their face. Jonathan tells Martha, no, get back in the car, get back in the car. We're looking at their faces and we see Martha say, what is that? As she points and we just hear a baby cry over it and we cut to black. Some time has passed and we're introduced to Lex Luthor, a man in his late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s. He's an extremely literal, sort of business-minded, to the point of OCD. Like he's a specific person. In my mind, I would love him to be played by Bradley Whitbury or Michael Fassbender. Pretty sure it's Bradley Whitbury. Josh from the West Wing. Brad or Mike. He's in this laboratory, it looks like, at LexCorp. It is very computer heavy all over the walls. It's like a grey-green metallic colour. And we see this woman outside. There's like glass windows and stuff. And we see them walk in as Lex is working something on these benches. She brings in this like 15-year-old blonde kid. Mercy says nothing, and Lex just says, stay on standby, Miss Graves. And Lex just shuts this kid down. Doesn't even learn his name. He's like, I'll be honest, Mr. Like it's like, Pete Ross. I'll be honest, Mr. Ross. I don't want you here. And he's like, in fact, I can't think of a single quantifiable reason why you deserve to be allowed in my building. And he's like, I was selected for the sort of this intern experience, this LexCorp internship. It's like, is that why you cheated? For the intern experience, is that why you've cheated? And immediately we just see Lex pull this brown file out. D in history, D in mathematics, D in English literature. I'm not even sure if you went to any foreign language studies, but top marks in physics, biology, and chemistry. You've cheated. These aren't your results. Never refers to him as Peter. There's like cold, analytical, like I have all the answers before the conversation even started. You're a liar. Picks up like this volumetric flask. And he's like, what's this, Mr. Ross? Mr. Ross, can't. He's like, a jug. What is a covalent? And just asks him these like really almost degrading questions. And he's like, you're fired from the program. Lex pushes a button. Miss Graves, you can come back in now. She's just been outside waiting. They both knew this conversation was going to happen. I'm here for 3 weeks. My parents rented a hotel in Metropolis. I can't leave. I'm supposed to be here. And he's like, well, hopefully, Mr. Ross, this has taught you that you need to work at being better. You aren't allowed to be here just because someone said so. You aren't better. You need to work. Lex is working in his lab. It's later on in the day. And he's in front of this big glass, almost cage, this tank with the glove sockets that like a nuclear radiation rods would sort of go in, and we don't see what's in there. As a man comes in, like wearing a suit, clearly doesn't belong here. We introduce him as Mr. Thomas. And we use this time with Mr. Thomas to just sort of set the scene a little bit. Due to that oil fire that happened in Kansas City, a lot of the crops, a lot of animals die, farmers can't farm, and that's Smallville's main economy, right? So it leaves it financially worse. The US government starts cleaning up, starts offering compensation to those who are affected. For a time. Oil spills on land aren't, that hard to really clean up. It's not as if it's the water and God everywhere. The government is like, hey, we've done our part. We out. We're outie. We're gone. Even though farms aren't set up and running yet, they're getting there. they leave. They leave their financial aid and their help, and the contracts with the cleaning crews are done, so they bounce. We'll explain this in a few later scenes, but I'll just give it to you all now. So, in retaliation to this like bad press and these protests, the US government goes to a lot of these large companies and starts incentivizing them to help Smallville by offering contracts and grants to those who are willing to stand in support of Smallville. So these companies start to create these intern programs. These corporations start to almost use Smallville as good press. And they say those who show outstanding potential in relevant fields can come work for us for a couple of weeks and get an idea of what it's like to be in Metropolis. Mr. Thomas, we sort of have that whole conversation. Don't forget, there's this yearly expose is happening, and you need to be ready to show your results, show what you're finding. There's going to be people from Star Labs, Wayne Enterprises, Palmer Technologies. You're Lex Luthor. You're the face of this company. You need to have results. The guy turns to what's in the tank, and he's like, is this it? Is this what you've been working on? And Lex just says, yes, Mr. Thomas. This is a shard of nth metal. And this is the first time we see Lex take his hands out of the glass. And we really play up the fact that Lex loves to be the smartest guy in the room, the guy with all the answers, and the person who will talk down to you to make himself the alpha. Lex is like, Mr. Thomas, I'd really love you to think back to your high school chemistry lessons when you were too busy talking to the girls or trying to be the funny guy in class, when your teacher would bring out this big laminate chart, and on that table would be all these funny little letters that would show every element that we've ever known. Next to all those letters is numbers, and those numbers are the atomic number. And Mr. Thomas is like, oh my god, he is going on. And he's like, the atomic number, the mass, is made up of its electrons, protons, neutrons, and that makes up an atom. And everything we have fits neatly into those somewhere 150 elements. Everything except this. And this is when we see a piece of broken, almost like corrugated metal. And it is shiny. And then it's floating just in this tube. I'm hinting here at kryptonite, but it is not kryptonite. It is nth metal, which is a thing in DC Comics, and I'll get there in a sec. Its atomic number is constantly rising. Mr. Thomas is like, is that safe? To what end? Every 52 days, this object, this element, safely discharges. And then its cycle starts all over again. We don't know why. Its number is always different. And so we've just started referring to it as N. So, nth metal in DC Comics, I'm going to just give you a bit of a lore dump here. It's found on the planet of Thanagar. That's not important to this story, but it will be in a potential sequel. This was found by Amanda's Wallace Task Force. It has multiple properties, nth metal, and actually helps many superheroes in the comics, like Hawkman, like giving him flight, healing, energy manipulation. Lex goes home, end of the evening, and he goes home, and we see his very specific, almost OCD schedule. We see Lex go home, and this piano music starts to play, and he puts his shoes in the perfect spot. He goes into the shower, and we see dozens of towels all in a row, all exactly the same, all perfect. Then he starts cooking a dish, and we see this very elaborate, almost like Hannibal style, where he's zoomed in, chopping the onions or the vegetables or whatever. He's in this beautiful stainless steel kitchen, and while he's doing it, we see him check his watch, and it rolls to 6:20 p.m. And we go see him set a table. This large, mahogany dining table, this very ostentatious dining table, with a single chair at the end of it for him. Sets the table, sits down, starts eating. 6:40 rolls around, he checks his watch again. 6:40. Finishes eating, sits in silence. It's not time for him to leave yet. Lex Luthor is such a perfectionist, is so specific with his life that he has planned his entire day down. Throughout the film or the story, we see Lex check his watch during conversations, during almost like a tick. Anyway, so from this point on, we are really starting to tell two different stories until they come crashing together. We're telling the story of Lex Luthor, his eccentricities, his OCDs, his specificness, his ruthlessness. And we're sort of going to begin to create and seed the creation of the myth of Superman. So we go back to Smallville, right? We see this red pickup truck roll outside of the school. We see Martha in it, and we see Clark run out of the school, and she's picking him up from his first day of 8th grade. Jonathan is down the street, and he's a florist. And Martha starts asking, how was your day, sweetie? And this, that, and the other. Starts trying to see how he's doing. And we see Clark respond and answer the questions. But Clark can hear the conversation that Jonathan is having down the street. And we see Jonathan have this conversation that he's trying to buy these specific flowers, snowdrops or something that's kind of rare, certain color of tulips or whatever, Martha's favorite flower. And we hear him say, but what about those? And the florist is like, no, those are for another order that I just haven't got round to. They'll go for dinner. They'll go home and make dinner. Martha's making the food and Clark's setting the table. As Martha turns round to put the food down, the bouquet of snowdrops, Martha's flowers, are there in a vase. Martha looks shocked. She thanks Jonathan after food. Jonathan says that him and Clark can do the dishes. Martha goes, gets like a glass of wine. She's like, okay, I'm gonna grab a bath. The Kent farmhouse is huge. You wouldn't be able to hear through the floors. It's a converted bar. It's massive. And we can't hear Martha when she gets past the stairs. And neither Clark nor Jonathan are talking. But what happens is we just hear Clark go, okay, go. And Jonathan just says, you know you have to return with flowers, right? As they start washing the dishes and stuff. And we sort of hint that Jonathan knows Clark has abilities and it's kind of helping Clark stay humble and honest. And pour myself a drink. I didn't realize this would take this long. Delicious. So, it's the day before the expose. Lex is working on the end metal in front of that tank once more, hands through the gloves, and we see Mercy Graves, that assistant from before, in the corner of the room. She isn't saying anything, and Lex is talking. We realize that Lex is sort of playing like mental tennis with himself. He's sort of bouncing ideas off himself. Night, Lex. Someone from outside leaves, light turns off. And we hear him tap on the computer, take the shard and put it in this big tube. And we hear this computer sort of like introducing vacuum. After a while, ting, 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 the shard drops, breakthrough. He's done something. Something has changed. Night, Lex. Pays no mind. Lex is staring. He's like, what does this mean? What is this? I'm on the cusp of a breakthrough. Something is going to change here. Takes it back into the big canister, the big glass tank. Introducing vacuum. Much shorter time, the shard drops. And we just hear him say, hand me your taser. Shocks the shard, takes it out of its canister, shocks it. And we see electricity pulse through this item, just floating, energetically, like twitching almost. And we just see him smile. He's like, it's a battery. Cut then to Clark at school. And we just saw him daydreaming out the window, looking at the sky, listening to the sea that's 60, 70, 80, 100 miles away. In the background of a few scenes in the school, we see these banners for this autumn ball, and we just kind of like have a bit of murmuring about this thing, and we're just kind of going to set it up. So keep that in the back of your brain. So what we hear over an intercom is that we're introduced to the headmistress, Angela Ardora. So what we hear over from the intercom from the headmistress is that the groundskeeper left and he retired last year. They didn't find anyone to fill his position. Lunchroom, right? Clark's sort of sitting on his own. We see him like grab a drink, like a juice box or like a can or something. We see him sneeze, and as he does, the drink is completely frozen over. His ice breath has completely frozen the drink. A few kids spot this, and as he turns, he looks away. He looks embarrassed. We're introduced to Lana Lang here. Comes and sits next to him, and we see that they're friends. They have been for quite some time. She makes no mentions of any of this weird stuff that's just happening. She doesn't mention the drink. We see that she's a little bit geeky. She starts talking about her dad has let her borrow this kite. And Clark is immediately like, that sounds cool. And she's like, yeah, let's take it out later. So at the end of the day bell rings. Clark grabs his leather jacket and walks out. And I really want to make an homage to this picture. Clark steps outside. And we hear this kid beating up on another kid. And we see this kid, Zach. And he's just ripping into this kid. This geeky little kid, Billy. Clark comes round. And he's not big, macho, and bravado. He's just like, hey, is everything okay? And Billy is like, yeah, Clark, we're fine. And Billy looks more scared of Clark than he does of Zach. And Zach just drops whatever beef he just had with Billy. And he's like, what do you want, Kent? I'm not scared of you, Kent. You freak. And we see this kid work himself up. Form a fist. Go to punch. Cut. But we see Lex roll up to LexCorp. There's firefighters outside. An electrical fire has burnt everything down. Again, mid-90s. Hard drives are gone. Test results are gone. Everything's gone. A person is dead. I just see this scene where Lex in the middle of this like sterile blacked room with the smoke fumes all over the wall. Electrical wires have burnt out this melted electronics. There are firefighters running past. One of them sort of like pulls Lex back. It slows down and we just see all this chaos. And Lex never takes his eyes off that cage and it's missing. The shard is gone. So we go to Clark and Lana. We're in this wooden grove. We see Lana flying this big blue kite out in the sky as Clark is talking to her, sitting on a rock. Pretty quickly, the conversation moves on. Lana's like, "Did you see what Zach was doing to Billy earlier?" She goes, can I fly?" She says yes. She directs him on how to do it. And he's like, "How do I keep it still?" And she's like, "Well, it's like surfing." 15-year-old girl thinks she understands the world, thinks she knows everything about everything. She's like, "Yeah, it's like surfing." And he's like, when have you been surfing?" She's like, "Okay, I think it's like surfing. Look, just ride with the current, not against it. Don't jerk it round, keep it still," stuff like that. She continues to ask him questions about Zach, and he continues to get more uncomfortable. The wind takes the kite. Clark is not focusing on it anymore. Lana shouts at him as it starts veering off. Clark panics. When Superman panics and tries to course correct, he isn't going to do it lightly, and he completely breaks like the rope that it's on, just crushes it, breaks the string, jerks it back, like smashes it into a tree in front of them. That's like, and it looks like Clark has got upset with the conversation and just had a strop and just yanked it and pulled it down to this tree. Clark's very ashamed of his actions here. He's very timid. And she goes to the riverbed. She's like, "Look, I'll knock it down." Follow the camera to her front, and we just see Clark in the background. We just see this blur. As Lana turns around, Clark is holding the kite. She's like, "How did you?" He's like, "It fell down." She clicks. There's no way this thing fell down. And Lana always seeing Clark as a friend, not as a person with powers, right? Unable to handle these emotions, being like this hormonal teenager as well. She just bails, runs back through she leaves Clark alone with the kite, and we sort of focus on Clark, this kid, just standing there with this kite. Meanwhile, expose, fancy ass dinner event. We've got people in suits. We're in this royal sort of gala. There's red curtains everywhere. We see the signs of all the people who will be presenting their technologies. Mr. Thomas, the board member from earlier, comes over to Lex and he insists Lex goes up and says something. Make sure LexCorp's name is said today. Like, we need to show something. Let's show the prosthetic limb. Lex laughs at it. Let's not show technology that everyone else here can do. Leave it to me. I'll go and say a speech. Takes a drink up with him. And Lex is a few drinks deep, and we just see him sort of monologue for a minute. This lecture about progress. About progress being earned by predators. When our ancestors first started taking their steps on this land, they invented the idea of progression. We tell this romanticized fiction of how early humans came out of the water hand in hand and took their first steps together, breathing together. Rambles on a bit, half cut, but still the smartest person in the room, and want you to know about it. The creature that took its first steps on land was overwhelmed by the sights. It wasn't used to using directions by the sun. It wasn't used to the way rocks and mud felt under its so-called feet. The first creature that took steps got lost and it died. And the next creature that came up on land maybe took a few more steps and then ate the wrong berries, and then that thing died. And when these creatures were weak and scared and alone, a predator came and attacked them. And when these so-called ancestors of ours were weeping and bleeding on the floor, this predator ate them. It learned. We earn our progression by being better. We are the predators that have earned the right to make humanity better. LexCorp and I, Lex Luthor, will, and we hear this buzzing noise behind them, almost this remote control car, robotic prosthetic limb wheels itself on. And people start laughing, and Lex sort of freezes. Not supposed to go this way. The robotic arm wheels over to him, and he's like, "What is this?" Just talking to those backstage who are in control right now. The arm tries to take the drink. It smashes it, and it cuts Lex's hand. He gets his drink all down him. Lex is furious. Cusses out LexCorp, walks off stage. Crowd is laughing. Lex is sort of just staring at himself, looking at the blood on his hand. And we hear a man clap behind him. And we see this man who is not supposed to be here. He's not wearing a suit. He doesn't wear like an overall or a parka and a pair of jeans. When we learn that it is Stephen Ross, it's Pete Ross's dad, the kid that got fired at the beginning of this story, and they get into an argument about Pete Ross being fired and how it's not fair and he didn't do anything wrong. But it's really an argument about class. We use this moment to explain the rest of Smallville's financial problem, these government grants and how they're supposed to help out. Lex really condescendingly just says, Well, maybe that's what happens when we try to send a bunch of farmers to Metropolis. Stephen Ross cannot contain that. Pushes Lex. Pushes him out of the bathroom. The room goes silent as these two essentially just get into a scrap. They're yelling at each other. They're cussing at each other. The whole banquet, the whole evening goes quiet, and all the attention focuses on Lex Luthor and this man. There's press there, of course, and they snap pictures of it. People break them up, and Stephen says, "Look at you. You do the bare minimum, and you've convinced yourself that you are helping humanity." People are like really struggling. Lex is furious. And he's like, "You don't even know. You can't even comprehend what we're doing here." And Steve just says, "I know with what all you've got, you could fix all of Smallville's problems." Next day, Lex is in front of board of directors, and they are just tearing him down. We hear, "A man has died, Mr. Luthor. Amanda Waller gave us that shard 18 months ago. Millions have gone to waste. Nothing to show for it." Lex sort of argues that it was the containment of the shard. They just need a containment device. It's so close to being ready. You ridicule a child for wanting a better future, then you punch his father in the face, tearing him down on TV. Bad press, bad publicity. Sort yourself out. Get away. We see Lex go home. Lex gets drunk immediately. Lex is playing the piano. Doorbell rings, he doesn't answer it. Latch opens, door opens. Someone comes in. Mercy, holding a briefcase. She stands next to him. After a moment, Lex tells her to sit. Mercy's like, "I didn't know you played." He's like, "I learned." "It's nice." "I know." Unsympathetic. He's like drunk, but he's focusing, or he's postulating on what to do next. And Mercy asks, like, "What are you going to do?" I'm gonna fix Smallville." He leaves his briefcase. As she gets ready to leave, she says, "Have the jet ready in the morning." So, next day, we're back in Smallville. A limo rolls up, and Lex steps out. And immediately, he sends Mercy away. She's like, "What do you want?" He's like, "I need someone there. Go." And we realize that Lex has this sort of relationship with Mercy where, like, he needs her. He doesn't trust anyone else to do anything, even to drive him halfway across America just so she can turn around and drive back. Like, she is his go-to guy. Oh, it's getting warm in here. Whew. We're getting there, guys. So Lex goes to the town hall, right? And Lex is like, "Mr. Mayor, when is the next vote for your office?" Lex really just lays it on thick. "What if I could offer you something that would not only guarantee your next vote, but because of the meeting that we have here today and the actions that come out of it, I guarantee you any seat that you wanted in Congress." Lex starts laying it on very poetically about how tragic it's been here, how the working class has been forgotten about because of the oil crisis, and how Smallville was affected. So what I propose, Mr. Mayor, is that we turn Smallville into the first 100% green energy town. Using our new LexCorp generator, with help from wind and solar, we'll create an energy source that has zero emissions and zero risk. And with how many outstanding students that you have here going to those internships, Smallville will be held to the highest acclaim possible. You'll be on the news, Mr. Mayor, you'll be famous, and you'll be the pioneer of our country's progression. Mayor stops for a second. We're like, that sounds really good, and Lex Luthor could probably deliver on this. But he turns it down. "Mr. Luthor, I appreciate it, but we keep Smallville's business in Smallville." And he's basically like, "Your generosity is very appreciated. And if you want to help, if you really care that much, go into town. Help the people. Smallville's never been one for the spotlight." Lex is like, "What are you on about? I'm offering you, like, a different life." So Lex walks out of the building, and we realize now that he's in like a market. And we see Clark, and we catch up with Clark doing chores around this market. And he spots this elderly woman struggling with her bag. Clark, very cockily, like, pushes out his chest, knows that he's doing the right thing. So he's like, "I'll help you with those, ma'am." Like, lowers his voice, like, super manly, like, trying to just really be like, "I'm the best." And she clips him round the ear. She's like, "No, you won't. I'm not dead." Like, she turns him down. We see Clark very quickly get rejected and back down. Clark spots Lana hanging out with a few friends. She's talking to a few of these friends, and Clark listens in, and they're not talking about him. They're focusing to the point that he hits a stone. We're sort of developing here that, like, Clark Kent's a doofus. Like, he's a big old dog. Also, he's not Superman yet. Like, he's getting there. He definitely doesn't know his own strength. But, like, he can fall over. He's not infallible. This gets Lana's attention, of course, and the rest of the kids just start making fun of him. And we see Lana sort of feel sorry for him, and she sends them away, and he's like, "I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. Will you come to the dance with me?" She says, "On one condition. Can you just be Clark?" Lana gets up, follows her friends. Clark spots that woman again, struggling with the bag. Clark just offers her hand. He's like, "I'm not going to do it for you, but I'm here if you need me. And we see this very literal on-screen depiction of Clark learning that people don't want things done for them. We're trading off between Clark and Lex. We see now that Lex is sort of investigating, and we see farmers selling off old stock because it's getting close to autumn, like crops and vegetables that will go bad soon. We see pies that are being made, and everything is like very idyllic. We see these like wood carvings and ice carvings that are just immaculate. He comes across this like jewelry store, this handmade twisted jewelry, and we see Lex like, this is really good. Like Lex is impressed, and he picks up this one with like a precious stone, and it's like a lapis lazuli. He notices how precise and how like particular the cutting of the stone is. We have tools here that we use to cut it. And he's like, was this cut by a laser? I didn't think Smallville would have laser cutting abilities. We get some of the kids at the schools to help us out. That's sort of as much as willing to get. And so Lex needs to find a place to stay. We see Lex Luthor go to an estate agent or like a letting agency, looking to get a lease on a place. And it's in Smallville. We see him get this like small little one-bed apartment over a bar. Like, music is blaring through the floor. We see him look at his watch and try to resemble then that home life. And we see him make a phone call. Next day, Lex goes to school. Goes into the school, and he sees this massive trophy case with all these like head students and yearbooks of like kids that have gone through great things. There's no way like such a small population has this many prodigies. When we meet Angela Adora, the headmistress, she comes over. Lex, being a super genius, just starts like looking at her, working out what she wants. He starts mentioning like, there's so many brilliant students here, they should have a brilliant campus or whatever. And he's like, you know what? I can bring LexCorp technology here. What if I could make a generator for you that would take you off the power line? Like, it's just a little bit, but I can do that for free. I just want to help. No, it's okay. Thank you. I'm not interested. We like to keep Smallville's business, and then Lex continues it. I've heard Smallville's business. So what can I do? She offers him a job as the groundskeeper, the one that didn't come back earlier. So we go to the Kent house. It is late afternoon, evening, and we see Ma, Pa, Kent. We see the headmistress, we see Angela, and we see another woman, which we realize is Zach's mother. My poor boy's hand is broken. He's dislodged 2 knuckles, and for the rest of the film, whenever we see Zach, his hand is in a cast. Before Clark can even speak, his dad, Pa Kent, Jonathan Kent, is like, go to your room. Clark is like, no, I didn't do anything. Puts his foot down on the floor. Everyone's like a little bit like, oh shit. Jonathan just stands up and he's like, Clark Kent, go to your room. This is Superman we're talking about. But Superman's dad just grounded him. The rest of the room is just Zach's mum, head teacher, and the Kents. And Clark just listens to the rest of the conversation. And Zach's mum wants something done. The teacher's like, look, this is special circumstances. Mrs. Adora, Angela, the headmistress, is like, look, maybe Clark needs an outlet. And Jonathan Kent just says, Oh, an outlet. But he can't play basketball like every other kid. So we've hinted that Jonathan and Martha Kent know Clark has powers. And we kind of realize now that most of Smallville know Clark has powers. Because how could you not? That's like an 8-year-old boy lifting cars. Kents feel immense guilt of that oil spill that hit Smallville so much, have messed up Smallville's economy. It was their son that caused it. So to make up for it, and realizing that their boy has powers, they get Clark to help as much as possible. He's helped with farming, he's moved cargo, repairs, he's even helped people in like carving, like cross-state carving competitions. I love the idea of this for like a sequel where because he's been carving those ice sculptures we saw earlier in Antarctica from the ice, and he carves the Fortress of Solitude from a woman who taught him to carve ice, or like a pumpkin or something. All those special students, all these people that have broken records. It's Clark. Clark's been taking tests for people, filling in for people at school, trying to make people better, trying to give them the head start that they need, that they want. Reading answers via X-ray or listening to someone miles away, like read answers to ensure children get the scholarships, the futures, these intern possessions that they need to help Smallville's economy. Clark is making people better. The reasoning here is that, like, cheating is bad, right? But he hurt Smallville, right? By turning up. People are scared. So he and the Kents realize, and it was a group decision, that, like, he can forcibly make Smallville a better thing. It's misplaced. It's this misplaced idea of hope, and how we're learning that he's forcing a change on people, and that's not inspiring them to be better. That's making them better, which is scary. It's almost a Lex Luthor parallel. And Martha and Jonathan just keep on talking. They just are stressed out. What are they going to do with this boy? She's just unloading. She's like, I had to put a neighbor's dog down because she's a vet. She's on about like how like Mary was just crying because their family dog died. And I think something broke into the chicken coop. Like it's broke. It's too small anyway. Like I need to get the contractors out. I need to build another one. Jonathan's like, look, I'll see what I can do. I'll try and fix it tomorrow. Clark, still listening to all of this. I'm going to make it up to my parents, right? Middle of the night, Clark sneaks out through his window. Takes no problem tearing this chicken coop down, right? It is in pieces. This 15-year-old boy is just breaking boards, trying to cut them, trying to make a bigger chicken coop. He starts putting planks down. He's like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to build something. So he wrecks this chicken coop. Chickens get out, right? And Martha and Jonathan Kent come out because of all the banging, right? Jonathan's got a gun, and we just see this scene. It's like covered head to toe in soot. He's just got this broken beam in his hand. So upset with himself, with this chaos, this destruction. And we start seeing the streak lines. So as Clark is lying there, covered in dirt, dude, Martha just runs over. Mark Kent just gives him this big hug. She's like, sweetie, I know. We sort of use this moment that Martha to teach him that, like, people want to do things for themselves. They don't want everything done for them. They need guidance, and they're gonna get it wrong, but that's how we learn, right? We learn by making mistakes and learning from that information. You need to learn to be better, not just told or shown how. The Kents spend the rest of the night getting in the car and finding chickens. Meanwhile, next day, Lex Luthor's first day on the job. Lex wears a suit as a groundskeeper. People start making fun of him. He's wearing a $3,000 suit, and he's here to sweep up. And we see this very real scene of Lex shedding his skin. He takes off his jacket, he rolls up his sleeves, and he starts like unblocking a toilet or something. We see Lex go around the courtyard, and he's staring up at this basketball hoop. And there are 4 finger marks embedded into it. There's bent the iron. Because at some point, Superman has played basketball. We see Lex go around the school, start working. He's also kind of spying. He's looking into like that trophy case about everything that's going on. He's asking the students. He's asking teachers about these awards. Smallville's business. Cool. Thanks for wasting my time. So he's in the lunchroom one day, sweeping up. This is sort of over a couple of days. And he spots Clark Kent sitting on his own. And right when he's like trying to just look around and see everyone's friendship groups, and no one is paying attention to this kid, Mrs. Adora comes over to him. They've had a little bit of flirt here or there. We have this autumn ball coming up. Would you like to come with me? Will you help me chaperone the kids? We see him make another phone call. A few white boxes appear outside his apartment. And in the evening one day, break into the school. He has the keys, goes into a back building. He's building something. And eventually we realize that he's building that nth metal generator, the one he was told not to. And his plan is just to like, I'm right. I can do this. I'm not going to be told no by you. When someone questions it and says like, oh, like, maybe we should give this a go. He's like, I'm that good. I already did it 3 days ago, right? And it was so seamless, you did not even know. We sort of see this nth metal shard. It's this like large blue glowing containment. So we see him turn the generator on, right? And it works. We cut to the next day, the day of the dance, but still school time. Decorations starting to be hung up. And we look at Clark, and it looks like he has an earache. And we can hear this like light fuzzy buzzing. And Lana's like, don't ditch me now. He doesn't. Bell rings half day and then everyone leaves. So we cut to the night of the autumn ball. Lex and Angela are having a friendly conversation. They're keeping their eye on kids. We see kids dancing, people being awkward around each other. She asks Lex for a dance. And suddenly we cut to the generator and a small blast sort of emanates from it. Like a shockwave or an EMP, because electrical devices in the immediate vicinity start to turn off computers and telephones. And suddenly we cut back to inside and the lights turn off and turn back on. Suddenly a bulb pops. The speakers speed up and slow down. And in the walls we start seeing these black lines start to appear. The wires behind the wall are shorting out and burning. We start seeing them go everywhere. They start running up to the ceiling tiles, and immediately these things burst into flames. We see it like catch to the drapes, and the drapes start to like swing into the classrooms because they're burning, and we see it like go to the wall art. The word Smallville that's cut out by like the kids starts to ignite. And Lex runs in under the guise of seeing anyone else there. He actually goes to the generator. So we see Lex, he goes into this back room, takes a fire extinguisher, cover his mistakes, cover what he's just done, hide the nth shard. Shocked to see that the containment has still held, manages to take the generator, throw it out the back window, and just hide most of the evidence. Concurrently to this, we see Martha Kent driving to the dance. Lana and Clark in the back, and they're nervous and they're excited. At this point, they see half of the building on fire. The emergency services have not shown up yet. Clark immediately gets out of the car. Clark's like, I can't let people inside get hurt. I have to help. She's like, you won't be able to breathe. Cover your face. And Lana starts looking around the back and grabs that red picnic blanket. Now, of course, Superman can breathe in this. Doesn't matter. They don't know that, though. He's still a boy. He's still a 15-year-old kid. So we see Clark with this red blanket dash in there, this red blur, and immediately starts helping people, getting people out. Eventually, Clark runs into Lex, who's just leaving that generator. Lex is astounded at what he sees, this red blur. Clark hears this fuzzy buzzing from Lex. Blanket round his face, and you can't see who it is. Rushes up behind him. He's like, sir, do you need help? Kind of confused. And Lex is just bewildered. He's like, who are you? So like tries to reach out and grab the blanket. Clark hears Zach the bully in one of the back classrooms shouting for help. Clark starts running normally round the corner. Lex goes to follow him as he does. Clark's gone. Guys, I'm sorry if this isn't lit as well as it should be. This light is too much. I need to open a window in here or something. I'm getting warm. Let's finish this. We're barreling towards the end of the story now, guys. Later that evening, hours pass, right? Lex goes home, defeated that not only his generator didn't work, but sort of unable to comprehend what he's seen. Goes home and he hears that jukebox. He sort of goes down to the bar thinking like, why not? A little bit later on, we hear banging from outside on his front door as Angela is knocking on the door. Angela is distraught, beside herself. She can't believe she put all these people in danger. To Lex's surprise, she starts to apologize. Can't believe we got you all wrapped up in this. If we had just done what you said, this wouldn't have happened. And realizes that she doesn't know what he's done. Puts on an act. It's not your fault. Couldn't know this was gonna happen. Looked at his watch. Angela's like, I'm sorry, I've just barged in. Do you have somewhere to be? Takes his watch off. Not tonight. And it's kind of heartbreaking because we know Lex Luthor is using her. The two end up spending the night together. A few days pass. We're inside this police station, right? And there's no cause of this fire. That they haven't 100% ruled out arson. We were going to look into the power bills, the utility bills. We're going to see anything like that, if anything surged. We see a lot of kids bored during the day because there's no school. So Pa Kent kind of insists Clark Kent does something, gives them a list of chores, and Clark Kent, being a bored Superman, goes, done. Be useful, be helpful, just do something productive. Pete Ross is now back, obviously, in Smallville. Pete Ross helps Clark Kent get a paper route. The school's being rebuilt, and we see Lex helping with the rebuilding, right? And one of the times we see him helping, he's actually with someone, a resident of Smallville, and they're going to get some wood. They need some more timber. Lex offers to help. While they're out in the woods of Smallville, he spots this like large clearing in the middle of this forest. We spend some more time with Lex and Angela, and their relationship is really starting to bloom. I've got scenes here, but eventually she reveals she's pregnant. Like, they've spent a couple of nights together, and Angela Adora is pregnant with Lex's child. Lex checks his watch, and we sort of see this like everything's going according to schedule, and Lex is playing all sides of this. Another scene they're talking about baby names, and just so I can have my complete nerd fantasy, they start throwing around the names and they decide on Connor. We see a scene of the Kents having dinner, and Clark is fascinated by this newspaper, and he starts asking all these questions about Metropolis. And this is paralleled to Lex eating alone, and he stares at this floating shard. And after a while, we see him tinker with it, charge it, and we see a similar EMP, and suddenly the music downstairs stops. Lex goes out for a walk. He just sort of stares at the school. He walks over to a payphone, and we see him have a conversation, and it sounds like he's buying something. We cut to Mercy, his assistant from earlier, walking up to a lawyer or a person in an office, and a contract gets signed. And then suddenly we cut to a power station as a LexCorp sign gets put over it. We see these police officers continue to be police officers. They continue investigating this, investigate the fire. They're going over the school power bills, and they start to notice and ask us questions about it. On the same day as this, LexCorp trucks roll into town and start driving into that spot in the woods that he spotted earlier. Kids start to check it out. A fence has now been put up around this clearing. Immediately starts construction. We start seeing people opening like these prefab parts and start slamming them together. Angela confronts Lex about this. She's like, what are you doing? What is all this about? Lex is like, it's falling into place now. Everything is synced up. Everything's happening. And he just admits that the reason for the fire is that he introduced a new power into an existing power grid. I'm gonna make the switch. I will make sure there is no other power grid. I own that power plant now. I'm gonna prove that I'm right. I'm gonna make Smallville progress. Protests start to happen. We start to mirror the beginning of that montage with the oil. And we're at another community hall meeting. The mayor is sort of surrounded by all these people barking their opinions at him. This is all sort of framed as like Lex's building is a violation and it's ugly and we didn't ask for it. And the mayor is like, Lex, do you have anything to say for yourself? Brought you into our community, we trusted you. Lex just starts giving this monologue. I'll tell you my secret if you tell me yours. There's a secret deep down in the heart of this town that you all just accept as normal. On the surface, you smile and wave, and that this facade that you present is normal. That everyone has a gift, that everyone is special in their own way. You sell these perfect products with tools to create them. Your students all excel equally in different subjects. You win awards and commendations that are way above your station. In life, there are winners and there are losers, and I intend to be the one who wins. I'll be the one that fixes Smallville. I, Lex Luthor, am the man of tomorrow. You just haven't caught up yet. So no, Mr. Mayor, I won't stop what I am doing. It's my land. So there are protests, naturally. Lex starts to employ security. We realize now that he's building this giant windmill, doing what he said he would do at the beginning of the film. Angela now is like heavily pregnant in a grocery store, and the water breaks. Lex calls Mercy, tells her to get the cameras, and Mercy calls news stations. She just tells them that LexCorp is unveiling a brand new product in the heart of Smallville. Lex is like, Smallville's business will not be Smallville's anymore. We cut to this scene of Lana and Clark in this protest, in front of this chain link fence, as news anchors and vans start to roll up. Lex's plan starting to come together, it's all syncing up for him. And as this thing starts to spin, with the protest there, Lex just says, okay, now, pushes the button. And he's really baiting Clark to do something here, because as he pushes that button, we see the top of the generator and the containment field disappears. And then we start to see the metal underneath it oxidize and rust away. We start to see sparks happening as Clark hears that buzzing again. And he kind of clicks what's going on, and we see him, Lex is going to hurt this town, this isn't going to work. We start to see sparks appear on this large, massive windmill. He rattles it all off to Lana. Lana's just like, what are you going to do? He's like, I don't know. I have to stop this, though. And we see him start to climb over the fence, and Lana starts to pull him down. She can't, because he's Superman. As guards start to rush him, and the news anchors start to get close to it. And I love this scene, guys. This is the scene that sort of makes it for me. News anchors get closer and see Lana talking to Clark, and these guards start rushing in. Sparks start flying. It's starting to electrically short. And she's like, how are you going to get up there? And Clark just turns around and looks at her and says, you know, someone once said it was like surfing, as he just lifts up and turns and flies away. And we cut up and we see him like pulling down this large windmill propeller or blade, whatever it's called. The news turn to Lana, excited. Excuse me, miss, who is this child? Now, if I really could have the film that I wanted, that is Vicky Vale. Flies up the top and sees this energy generator. And he freeze breaths it, right? And we see this perfect dome appear around it of pure ice. And before long, it starts to crack and melt. Eventually, he manages to compress it, squeeze it, push it together, and as he does, and he turns it to dust. And as he does this, this EMP happens, right? Lana's like, it's Superboy. This explosion happens, right? Cameras get knocked out, lights pop, TVs explode, street lights, and then an ambulance that was driving behind all of this to the nearest hospital. Electronics fry into a tree. This ambulance crashes, Clark hears it. Flies, darts faster than we've seen. This sonic boom happens behind him. There's a worry for a second that Angela's baby is not going to make it, and Clark lowers himself to the back of the ambulance right as the baby starts to cry. We see a smile appear on Clark's face. And Clark Kent is the first thing that child sees. Superman is the first thing Lex Luthor's child sees. Aftermath, right? We're at the end of the film. This scene of the Kents camping, and Jonathan Kent's cutting all this firewood, and Martha Kent is freezing cold. Clark's like, oh, I can get that part. Not use his powers. Just start cutting the wood. And Martha is like, Clark, I'm cold. And she tells him to use his heat vision, starts the fire. And they all just cuddle around. And they're like, I can't believe, like, I'm so proud of what you've done. Like, this is amazing. You saved the day. You saved everyone. And Clark's like, yeah, but you know about me. And Jonathan comes up and he's like, he's not a boy. He's a man. And gives him a beer. And we see Clark and Jonathan's first beer together in sort of this fire that he's just made. We see Lex at the trial hearing, and he goes to Arkham Asylum. Okay, we're at the end scene, right? We're at the end of the film. And we see Lex in prison, right? At, like, the prisoner contact bit, behind the glass with the telephones. And Angela comes, and they're having this conversation, and Angela lies to Lex. Her son, Connor. Connor's dead. Was this worth it? And we just see this deadpan look on Lex's face, where he almost is shocked. He's like, worth it? Of course, I was right. Film ends. Lex Luthor, the Cult of Smallville. And if I'm being as fan servicey as I can be, post-credit scene, because you gotta have one. Years later, we zoom in on the Kents, and everything's been rebuilt and stuff, right? And they're flicking through all these channels. I'm like, come on. They're looking through a news channel. We see Martha shout to Jonathan, and she's like, Channel 17, hurry! Runs to the porch and yells as like a neighbor starts flicking through her TV. So we see all these people, right? All these small villains acting like there's this big sports event on. Everyone is cheering on, watching the same channel as this news travels. Them in their like homemade jerseys that they've made, because Smallville now is a tourist attraction, right? We zoom in on Zach's house. That bully and the cast that he has now is framed on the wall and says Superman did this, and like this little really badly drawn S. You know, Jonathan's like, did I miss him? She's like, no. And we sort of cut into that helicopter shot that's happening. And it says like bank robbery in Metropolis. And we're inside the bank vault. And we see all these robbers with the balaclavas on, the shotguns, people hiding under the desks. And they're loading up like these bags of money. And we see a blur outside. And we focus on the bank robbers as one of them cocks their gun. Get out of our way! We focus on the bank robbers. I don't think I can do that. As they're like, who are you? And we just zoom in on the smile and it's like, I'm Superman. And boom, end, cut, finished, done. Only took me like 2 hours to tell you guys. Done. Lex Luthor, the Cult of Smallville. Like, and it's not overly great, I'm sure. I'm sure there's a million plot holes in it. I'm sure it doesn't actually make any sense. I'm sure people are going to be like, well, Antibattle's actually this. I was like, I needed something to focus on. And like, I guess that bleeds through into the story, right? Like the misappropriation of hope and like wanting to be better. It's probably way too personal for me, but like, I'm really happy with how this came out. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed me telling you this story that I wrote. I know there's holes in it. I know it doesn't make much sense. I know it's stupid and it's about Superman. I know I've apparently changed a completely different shade of color during all of this. I don't know how to end this. I don't really have a channel. Don't like, subscribe, share this with people. If they want to hear a story, think this is a cool story, then feel free to share this, because like that would mean a lot. That would make it be that like I actually did something and whatever. But you know, so thank you for listening.